Okay, I'm set. Hey everyone, welcome to the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. And this is episode 101.
Hey!
And it is my pleasure once again to introduce you to my co-host, starting with Mr. Josh Price.
Hello, everybody.
And also Mr. Mark O'Keefe.
Hello.
Can't forget about Mr. Wes Swain.
Triple digits.
And I am here and relieved we made it, Sean Jolliker.
Yay.
Is everybody reacclimating to their regular lives?
No, I refuse.
like
I refuse to.
This is crap. I want the Matrix back. I'd eat that steak in a heartbeat.
I got home and I'm like, wait, I was supposed to come home with a 3D printer and a drone and all this other stuff and time to make.
Well, someone came home with a drone. It wasn't you.
It was my brother-in-law.
He won a drone?
No, he bought one.
One of the mini things in the corner?
Yeah, those are actually pretty good though. They're small,
Yeah,
they're quick. Yeah,
I was looking at those. Those were kind of nice.
and extremely reasonably priced. It's $60 for the base kit, and then $125 with the batteries and everything else. Not too bad to get in the game.
Not bad at all.
So I will. His drone will magically go missing in about a week, and I'll give you guys a full report.
Or just wait till he gets bored with it, and then you have a new drone.
Or he won't be able to use it, and he'll need me to show him, and I'll show him, and tell him I need to keep it for research.
Its hanger is in my living room now.
That's how I got a GoPro. I got it from his older brother that never knew how to use it. So, how does it feel to be a civilian again for the week?
Meh.
I've been feeling like garbage. I think the day that I got on the plane, I had sinus infection, so I got back and immediately went to bed and didn't wake up till that evening. And so I was so messed up as to what time or where in the world I was or where my kids were, because we picked them up really late. So it was, reintegrating back into the real world has been kind of messy.
Yeah, you looked. You didn't look too hot on the plane when I saw that your Instagram footage.
I felt pretty gross.
I thought it looked like you were going to be sick. I couldn't tell.
No. I don't get
couldn't.
sick on plane.
Well, not from the plane, just as if you're.
Not, you know that feeling you get,
be...
before you get sick, that your body ache, kind of echo, just gross feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We were at breakfast. Last night we were at breakfast with a bunch of people, and I just slowly started to fade into that. I'm getting really cold, even though it's hot outside, and I'm starting to feel kind of gross. And then you just kind of melt into yourself, and that stopped probably yesterday evening, and now all of my family members, I don't think I carried it, which I may have. All my family members are slowly dying right now.
No.
Tiff's upstairs. She's half miserable too, but it went by really quick.
It's not Double Dragon, is it?
No, that's fine. No, that's on lockdown. I think it's just a sinus infection. There's no hot snakes.
I kind of felt like I had that today too for a little bit. Just things happening real quickly, real short.
See, we just need to go back to Maker Faire where there's no sickness.
Yeah, it's like a utopia, isn't it?
There's no social media outside what's going on right in
That's
front
true.
of your face.
That's true.
Because social media was literally right in front of your face. Everything was nice and pretty.
There's times where I actually felt guilty, where I was videotaping something and everybody that responds "Oh, I wish I was there," and I'm like, "Well, now you guys know how it feels. When you guys got a workbench con, or woodworking in America."
I didn't feel guilty for 1 second.
No, I mean, this is the first time I've been to a big Maker Faire, and this one did not disappoint. I remember we were standing there. I'm gonna dive right into the craziest moment that I thought. So, I was standing there recording Bob and Evan and Caitlin and Laura Comp talking about whatever they were talking about, Now, no disrespect that I wasn't listening, but like out of corner of my eye, like, oh, there's Carrie Byron from the Mythbusters.
Yeah.
Just walked up. And there's my wife hanging out with Simone Yedge, talking it up. And then she introduced me to Simone. I'm like, yeah, I know who Simone is. And so it was just this weird, like, back and forth, like, what? There's a lot of cool stuff happening in this moment. And we're at the epicenter of it. It's just, I felt that way so many times this past weekend.
It's fed my need to move.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
You know, I know that we've... Mark, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I live in a place where, like, nothing really happens. I had the conversation with Winston once we found out Winston Moy when we found out where we lived, which was really weird too. A really weird moment, by the way.
Give some context.
Well, okay, we were at lunch and Winston Moy from Winston Makes was there, and I started talking to him. I was like, oh, nice to meet you. Where are you from? He's like, New Jersey. Oh yeah, me too. Where are you from? Yeah, I live in Ocean County. Yeah, me too. Where do you live? I was like, I'm in Brick. Oh, I'm in Toms River. You're almost literally next door to me. And it took a trip to California to figure that out. And both me and him were talking because there's not a lot of making where I live. There's not a lot of people that do it. There's, from the group that I know of, there's one other person, and we think we have one maker space that maybe might be kind of open occasionally. So I gotta contact him because we both want to go check that place out and see what's up with it. But it was just I don't know, just the weirdness of this whole trip is still resonating through my brain. I'm still trying to make sense of all of it. But yeah, like I would love to move to a place where this was more frequent. This was among more people. Making was more of a culture among the even like a handful of people, 5 or 6 or 7 people, just a small group.
Well, Wes brings half of the Raleigh-Durham area with it every time we go somewhere.
Yeah, your entourage.
Yeah. 50% of the Airbnb was from North Carolina.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Also, maybe that's what it is. Is it you go there and there's so many fantastic things all around you, and I don't know. I had this feeling that, like, dude, anything is possible. Like, there are no limitations to your creativity, and just it seemed this endless kind of wonderful, like, yay, let's do it kind of attitude. And then you come back to, like, the world where physics exists and, like, gravity is here and you have to drive, and there's like, oh yeah, this is the real world where that is some kind of, like, fantasy land.
What do you mean I can't call an Uber? I have a Oh, I gotta drive.
I shouldn't get starstruck much anymore. I mean, I think it's my 4th bigger maker event that I've been to, but it's still a bit weird sometimes. Just standing and talking to Bob or David Picciuto, or seeing Evan and Caitlin and William Osmond and people that I've all met before. And there's still weird moments that kind of set in of like, oh my God, I'm here with all these people, and I know I'm in a sense part of the group, but I'm still kind of on a different level. And it was even weirder when we were at the get together on Saturday night for Matter Hackers, and Laura Kampf came up and started talking with Raven Mauder and my wife. And my wife started talking with Laura Kampf and getting all excited because another female maker in the space that my daughter watches. And then I only did this once the entire trip. I took out one of my business cards and handed it to Laura. Don't know why, but that was my way of introducing myself at that moment, and she recognized it.
Nice.
And that was kind of weird for me because
and then you melted.
I didn't melt, but it was a little bit of an ego thing too. Like, hey, at least that's getting recognized. People may not recognize me by the way I look because I'm just another beardless, bearded guy in the crowd. But
beardless.
I know.
There are an excess of beards in this group, aren't there?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a Friday night when I was waiting for you guys to show up, and I'm looking around like, okay, where's the bearded guys? That wasn't a good approach to try to find you.
I'm by the beardless guy by the thing with fire.
Yeah.
You'd never find anybody.
Just look for me. I had the sunburnt neck from the fire on the Rapid Transit.
Well, this was the first real like maker event that I got to experience with my wife, which was amazing. I loved having her there. So much fun.
It was great meeting her too. It was fun.
She and
Tiff,
I guess
you're
in that
awesome.
like, she doesn't listen to the show. Unless she's on it, she won't listen to it. She's busy. But anyway, that like starstruck kind of thing you were talking about. She doesn't know any better, and so she just walk up to people and just start talking about whatever.
My
Like
wife's the same way.
She and Laura, like we were walking from one place to one place, and there was a bunch of people all in a big horde. And I was like trying to take video of all this cool stuff for the video I had to put out. And I look up and like she's walking with Laura Conf, and they've been walking for a while, just chatting it up. And like I kind of ran up there. I'm like, oh hey. She's like, oh hey Josh. I'm like, okay, Laura Conf knows my first name. I'm like, that's cool. She's like, I didn't know you guys lived in Belgium. I'm like, why do you know that we live? I'm like, oh yeah. And Tiff was just chatting up about it. We've been to Cologne Christmas market, all kinds of stuff. Such a lovely town. And that's when she like introduced me to Simone, because she was talking about her necklace, and they started like girl geeking out about jewelry and stuff, and where I may have that slight apprehension, like, oh my god, that's so and so. Like, Tiff doesn't know, so she just walks up and is like, you have a green shirt. I have a green shirt. We're best friends now. And I'm like, do you have any idea who you're talking to? She's like, oh yeah, this is so and so. I have no idea what they do or why people are freaking out that they're here. She just have a nice green shirt. And
Maybe that's
she
the
did
key to it.
the entire weekend she did. She was. It's really funny. Is that Bob is very reserved, like he tends to be, and so Tiff was just naturally kind of hanging around us in a group. And then if somebody was just standing in the peripheral, she would just like look at that person. She's like, "Oh, hey, have you met Bob?" Just pull him over there, and immediately like she would lasso Bob into these conversations.
So your wife kind of pulled the How I Met Your Mother on Bob.
She does it.
Have you met Bob?
But the best, there was a guy. Did you guys see the guy with the 3D printer on his back, the little backpack thing?
No, I
Yes.
saw the one guy with the weird printer drawer on his chest.
No, he had. Well, this guy had like a Delta printer strapped to his back and was just printing something the whole time. Well, he was there at that Matter Hackers meetup, and there happened to be like an open chair beside me and beside Bob, and Tiff was there, and he was kind of inching his way kind of toward the chair. And Tiff was like, "Oh, hey, you should come sit down." Like someone I had never met, and Bob had never met, and don't know who this guy is. She's like, "Have you met Bob and Evan and Caitlin and all these people?" And he was like, "No, not yet." And he was real quiet. And so she goes to like introduce all these people, and then they start having a conversation, and I'm just kind of there, not really caring, having a drink. And the guy with the printer on his, he didn't have printers back at the time, like leans over to Bob and was like, "So do you have a channel?" And Bob just kind of like, "Yeah." He's like, I like to make stuff." And that guy was like, "Oh, I've heard of that." He's like, "You're pretty popular."
I love those moments when I hear about them.
There were so many of them. Oh,
Yeah.
that was so
Oh,
fun.
Sean Thorsten, yeah.
Yep.
It kind of puts it into perspective too. Like as
Yeah.
as crazy popular as Bob is, there's still so much more out there that
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't yet heard of him.
He either knows the owner of a company on like a first name, like personal basis, or they have absolutely no idea who he is or what he does or why you're bringing up his name. Like there's very little middle ground, and that was really fun, and it was really kind of relieving to know that the maker community is so vast that you can be as popular as 1.8 million YouTube subscribers and no one knows who you are.
I think that's a good reminder for all of us, because I think we had talked at some point saying that when we put our stuff out, we're hitting the same people over and over again, and we're probably cross-pollinating. So where else do we go? Well, it's a good reminder that there's a lot of different places to go, and there's a lot of people that have not been reached yet.
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, that content creator stage, we all thought it was going to be just packed. Like the whole time was going to be packed, and it was the
Oh, really?
smaller. I mean, I went to a lot of different stages: the educator stage, the main stage, the live stage, the electronic stage. Like all those things were probably more packed than the content creator was.
Mm-hmm.
because those people had a message, and that message reached their particular audience just as it did on the content creator stage. But we all thought it was going to be just like swarm packed, overwhelmed with people spilling into the causeways and stuff. But
do you
wasn't.
think part of it is due to the name of the stage? Do you think that only means something to us?
Yes, I think that's a component, and I think our placement is also responsible for that. I think we should have the inside stage next year.
Well, I think when you look at people that are driving these massive, like, Burning Man, metal, fire-breathing, animatronic, like, buses around, to have a conversation with someone that's like, oh, what do you make? They're like, I make content for you. I make videos about making stuff. So they're like, oh, so... I mean, there was a conversation that someone had about being a generalist or being a specialist.
Yeah.
There are so many people there that are specialists and experts in whatever they are doing. So I don't know if it's like a cultural difference from their specialty to look at someone who just kind of sprinkles around in a topic or a genre. I don't know.
Well, you figure at Maker Faire, with a pretty large number of the audience is probably engineers. So they're probably not going to want to listen to us as much, and probably want to hear the specialists a little bit more. So I think you're making a pretty valid point there.
It's a show and tell, right? And the show seems to outweigh a lot of the tell.
Yeah. I mean, look at and to the point, Red Human. They showed big time, and they got a ribbon.
Oh yeah.
Just
Yeah,
showing up.
they got Editor's Choice Blue Ribbon for that.
Oh, cool.
Who is that?
The Making It Up ATL folks from Atlanta. Michelle and Becca and Elliot. Becca had the you weren't there on Sunday, but she has like this prop. It's like a old school CRT monitor where they gutted it so she can put her head in it, and they have like a matrix of LEDs. Yeah.
No, I saw them. They were walking around and everything on Saturday too.
Yeah. Well, apparently,
who they were initially.
some make guy came up to them. It's like, here, you get a ribbon, and like ran off apparently, and they have no idea who it was. They said it was like super awkward. They're like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, all the Make Magazine editors get like an editor's ribbon where they get to go kind of bestow it on people that do awesome stuff. Bob said he got one. I was there with the Snap Ships guys whenever they got theirs. That was pretty sweet.
They got it while we were there?
Yeah. Yep. When I was interviewing the guy, he took a picture of it, put it on Instagram.
Oh.
What else? Oh, and apparently we missed Norman Chan doing his Snap Ships interview by about 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for that toy.
Okay, so on that, before we get too deep into that, what was the coolest thing that you thought that you all saw?
Carrie Byron.
She looks just as good now as she did when she was on Mythbusters. I ain't gonna lie.
I didn't realize, like, it never occurred to me, like, I knew she had a kid, but I didn't realize how long ago it was, because I saw her walk up to, like, her daughter's, what, eight or somewhere in that range. I was like, oh, oh, wow, is that her? Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, that was awesome.
She was cool. Simone was awesome. It was really funny when Daniel from Switch and Lever came up. He's like, oh, hi, and starts talking to her in Swedish?
Yeah.
And then she just starts going back, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm seeing something kind of neat here, aren't I? I have no idea what's being said, and I don't care. That was neat.
So have each person name a person or person-to-person interaction, and then like a thing you saw, because those are like two different categories of neat.
Yeah.
I think.
I think the Snap Ships were the coolest thing I saw there.
I gotta go with them. Yeah.
If you guys are listening, and you don't know what Snap Ships are, look up. I like to make stuff too, and I interview the guy, and it's like an interconnected kind of like a model, but like a Lego set of it's awesome looking spaceships.
It is everything you've ever wanted out of a construction toy, and I can't wait for other stuff they do. It's gonna be so great.
Yeah, you can break apart and build up spaceships, and then you put this AR app over top of it, and you can fly it around and shoot guns and stuff. It was super fun. I wanted to invest in that company while I was standing there.
Yeah. That's one of those things. Like you look at it and go, this is the thing. This is what's gonna be. This is gonna be successful,
Yeah.
and you know it's gonna be successful.
I was actually disappointed that they were pre-Kickstarter.
Really?
Because, well, I mean, I know why they're there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know why they're there, but I already wanted them to be at the next stage. I wanted to walk away with a kit.
With your own kid.
Because, well, because I saw them before you guys. I saw them on a Friday initially, and I was ready to fork out money and buy the
Yeah,
kit.
me too.
Because I saw it, and I'm like, I have 10 ideas right now. I want to walk away with this right now and use it, and I couldn't.
We asked them that, didn't we? We're like, all right, can we buy kits right now? I don't care if they're 3D printed. I want to go home with some of these.
Well, they had a big bin that like kids were putting all the pieces together and like making their own ships right there. And I was like, I'll go find a little kid and just like steal this thing. And they're like, no, we'll send you some. We'll send you. I was like, I've heard that before from people, where I have the well wishes are nice. I was like, but then I don't end up with a thing and I get mad. I was like, I'm here right now. I was like, I'll pay you money. He's like, no, promise you that we'll send you some during the pre-Kickstarter kind of testing phase. I'm like, I'm not joking. I will pay one of these kids $1, and he will just run away from your table.
But yeah,
So that was our cool thing. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm stealing that one too. That was what I'm most excited about because I like toys. Because the potential for gaming on that is really great too, because you could have a bunch of friends, or this is something I thought of after, like what if we all got ships and the AR app lets you connect over distance, so you can log into a game with a bunch of your friends that aren't in front of you and play that game while you can't be together.
Yeah. So Wes, Sean, what was a cool thing you guys saw?
I would say snap ships, but I don't want to be just repetitive, even though I think it was really cool. My response is going to be for a school that I saw and what the students were kind of demonstrating. And they go by the group called, and this will be part of a little story I tell about this too, the Bay Area Makers. I guess Bay Area is the woman's last name, the teacher's last name. I don't remember the name of the school, but they had a pretty good sized booth and demonstrating everything that the students made kind of on their own. And one of the things I thought was really cool, and some of you guys might have seen it, it was a laser cut box put together that had a gear crank on the side, and when you cranked it, there were all these little fingers on the top that would move, and there was a person like in a wooden boat on top, like they're it's almost like an automaton, where it looked like the fisherman was in rough seas. And when I had talked to a couple of students, because of what I'm teaching and kind of what I'm expecting my students to be able to create, they said that was the first year that they had any exposure to any of those machines and that type of class. And I thought what they were able to produce was pretty amazing. So I want to kind of give credit to that, because there are so many districts right now investing in these programs that we need to see what is possible for even like high school students to do. The second part of the story, though, that's really funny is once again the night of the get together, the Matter Hackers get together. My wife was there and was talking, and she had seen somebody's earrings, 3D printed earrings earlier, that were the little Mickey robot, and she had complimented the woman on the earrings, but then saw the same woman there that night, and she gifted my wife a pair of those earrings. So we're driving home, and she's telling me about it and telling me about the woman, and I'm like, saying that she's a teacher. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a teacher that did this one thing with all these students. Found out it's the same person.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know it, because I wanted to talk to her, and she was right there next to me at the get together, and I didn't know who it was. So that's my pick.
Wesley.
I have a hard time focusing on an item. Most of mine were like interpersonal experiences. Last couple years, an item has stood out, but this year was about the people more so than the items, I think. Just so that's how it fell.
Did you get a free toy from Robert?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
What'd you get?
I got the vehicle Voltron head.
Nice. So Mr. Robert Riles, after our 100th episode, came up and gave us all goodie bags with toys in them.
From his personal collection.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
He blew me away.
Good people.
My kids were playing with him today. I got Jake Rockwell and his rocket pack from the Centurions, the actual figure. And that night, I went back to the hotel and bought Max Ray, the other of the three guys. I bought him off eBay, and he arrived today. So we've been in the house playing with all our Centurion toys. Sean, what'd you get from it?
I got a motorcycle from the 80s TV cartoon Mask that changes into a helicopter.
Sweet.
And I talked about it on the show at one point. And so when I opened it and I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, it was a little bit weird and surreal, because I don't know what happened to the one I had, and the last time I saw it was probably 1986.
Yeah, when he showed it to me, I thought he bought it somewhere at the some sort of like secondhand like booth somewhere. I'm like, where'd you get this from? I'm like, this is cool. What are you gonna do with it? And he's like, no, this is for you. I'm like, really? I was kind of surprised. I was very surprised. It was really cool. The standout experience I had is I actually got into the Nintendo Labo building and had a 30 to 40 minute conversation with two Nintendo employees about the inner workings of Nintendo Labo, one of which was a developer who worked on it for like a year and a half to 2 years, and he actually created several of the non-kit projects that you can do, like giving you inspiration to use the garage mode more. Like if you saw any of the videos, they had like a music box thing. It was like a big tumbler that would crank, and it had like the different reflective tape stickers on the cylinder, and it would act like a music box. He designed that, and it's his hand in the video cranking it, which I thought was cool. And then recently Jimmy Fallon did a bit where he had a bunch of Nintendo Labo instruments. A lot of them were custom for the different band members. They had like some drums and guitar ones and different things, and he built like most of them, he said, and designed some of those custom for those people so they would have a certain sound in the recording, which I thought that was awesome. So I was like, can I get a picture with you? And I was telling them the projects that I was working on and some of the issues I had with the Labo, one of which is like sourcing the cardboard. I told him how much of a pain it was to find just the cardboard. He's like, oh, you can get the cardboard kits on Nintendo.com, for like if you want another keyboard kit or, the different things. I'm like, no, I don't want a project, I don't want one of the pre-cut. I don't want one of the pre-cut kits that are actually come shipping in the normal box. I want like a blank slate piece of cardboard with no cutouts on it. It can say Nintendo Labo on it if you want to keep your marketing thing going on. That's fine. And I'm like, I just want the raw material. And he's like, why haven't we thought about that? He's like, I'll bring that up Monday. He like pulls out his little iPad, his little tablet, and starts writing his like notes. He wrote down like 3 things he was going to bring up at like some meeting that he said was like fantastic feedback. And he gave me his card, and I gave him a card and a sticker. He said he'll watch out for. I told him about the project that I'm working on for the Nintendo Labo thing that I should have done soon, and he was very excited. Both of the guys were really excited about it, so it should be cool. That was a highlight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got in, because I wasn't even going to try to stand in line and get in.
Yeah, I stood in line before the gates opened. That's the only way I would do it. Otherwise, you'd been in line for like hours. I was the second person. So, besides that, just seeing people that I didn't expect to see in the audience when we were doing our talk, which was awesome. I thought we did really well. Just a side note.
I'm very proud.
I'm talking, and I see like a face in the audience I recognize, but I'd never met him before. And he's never been to any events or whatever. And he comes up to the stage, and it was Wesley Treat. I don't know if you guys follow his channel, but you definitely need to check his stuff out. He does like lots of signs, a lot of signage and neon lighting and really cool stuff that I haven't seen a lot of other makers do. Like the closest is Jimmy in that the way he does his signs, but they're different. He does a lot of like the rolled metals and what do you call it? The break things you can fold the metal in like a long linear
the metal break.
fold. He doesn't do the neon himself, but he does all the design and like someone else bends them for him, but he installs it and does all the layout and everything. And he weathers a lot of his signs, and it's just a big variety. He's got like a funny kind of comedy sense in the videos. He puts mess ups in there all the time, and he'll bleep himself cursing. Like, and it's just like the timing is like such a funny moment. Like he'll get something so perfectly lined up, and then you'll just see this like thing just collapse in the background. And you hear like bleep. Just his reaction is so real. It's great. And it's just awesome. I didn't expect to see him there. I didn't see his video where he announced he was going to go. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. That's awesome. And it's just kind of a guy that I haven't really talked a lot about. But, I mean, we both have the same first name, so we have a kinship right there. He's like, hey, Wes, how you doing? I'm like, pretty good, Wes. How you doing? And a couple of times we were walking around together. Name? Wesley Treat, Maker of Things. Definitely recommend checking him out.
Yeah, that's another person that my wife introduced me to.
Yeah.
She got a shout out on his wrap-up video. She was
very
happy.
He had a fantastic wrap-up video. I thought it was very touching. So I recommend you guys check that out. It's a good it describes some of the things you get out of Maker Faire that you don't expect.
Speaking of people, I finally got to meet Steve Ramsey. Which I've been wanting to meet him for a while because he's one of the three people that kind of inspired me to start all this to begin with. And I've already met the other two, which was Jimmy DeRosa, and then I met Ben Heck last year at Maker Faire, and so now I met Steve Ramsey, and I've met the trifecta, and he recognized me and knew who I was too, which is always really a little bit reassuring. Nice. And helps it helps the ego a little bit.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time that. I guess because I've been in Bob's videos like a fraction of a second cumulative, people pick up on that. And Tiffany and I were walking around, and it happened about 4 times. It was very strange that people would just like, hey, it's Josh. And I didn't know they were talking to me. And another guy came up, and he's like, hi, my name's Josh, too. And I'm like, oh, hell, you were talking to me. And I don't know what to do. And he would introduce me, and then Tiff steps in, which I was really happy that she was there because she steps in and starts chatting with people and is nice and sincere. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do right now. I was walking somewhere. Now I have to stop.
You have to have like an entourage like Adam Savage does.
Like Bob usually
going incognito
like that. And I just keep walking around, and then people wanted to talk to me, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know what to do now.
Deer in headlights.
I kind of had that like a brain fart moment after we got off stage with Electro Boom, because I heard Wes talking to Wesley, and he's like, oh, what, there's another Wes, and then I yelled for Wes, and then he came up and he's like, hey, what can I do for you? And I'm just like, oh, not you.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And then he turned away, and I was like, oh, I'm the dick. Crap. I didn't mean to do that.
But then he stood in the picture behind us.
Yeah, he photobombed our make picture. So we got off stage and went over to the side, and they wanted to take our pictures. Oh, these guys just did their thing. And then he came and like stood on the stage behind us and wrapped his arms around all of us. I'm like, get out of our picture. This is our moment, guy. Go electrocute yourself somewhere else.
Oh, that's right. He did do that. Yeah.
I didn't even watch his show. Did you guys watch his presentation?
No, we were stopped and we were talking to all the people. It was amazing. Like, we were worried about, our presentation, obviously. Like, we were a little apprehensive because it's talking in front of people. And people were just so awesome. It was so nice to see, like, the diverse crowd. And, like, we had a lot of engaging questions. And
from people we didn't know.
Run through it?
Yeah.
Huh?
From people we didn't know. It was awesome. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if we should go ahead and just run through the show and talk about how it was. Like,
yeah, if you haven't listened to it at this point, go listen to it.
I just want to clarify on one thing. This is one of those awkward moments I realized afterwards where Josh was like, Josh asked me, was my basement growing up creepy as a child? And I said, no, not really. It was creepy for other reasons. That implies horrible things.
Yeah, I left that one alone. I didn't know what you were inferring. I was like,
No, my house was creepy because it was quote unquote haunted. Now, the question of ghosts push aside. A lot of weird, unexplained things happen in my house growing up. A lot of them. And then there was a moment between Tracy and my sister's husband, who something weird happened to Tracy, and he looked and went, "Oh, thank God I'm not the only one," and walked out of the room. So there's not saying there is ghosts, but weird things happen in my parents' house. So the basement was creepy, but not because my dad was mean, because he wasn't.
I think you told us about that.
Yeah, that was at the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still one of the creepiest stories I have in the holster.
and I noticed that nobody noticed that one of those make robots was gone. I think I really did balance out that backdrop.
No, because that wasn't the only one that left.
Oh, when we closed down the place on Sunday, there were 2 of them left on the wall.
Yeah.
Out of the, 12 that were maybe? 13 that were there the first day? The 12 that were there the second day?
I do not have a Makey.
I do. I took one right off the wall.
Is there anything that you were disappointed by, or maybe didn't quite live up to the expectation?
I'm gonna say something sacrilegious.
Uh-oh.
Adam Savage's talk. I thought it was, I don't know, maybe he's just been there a long time. And I mean, he wrote it and it was prepared. He read off the thing. And it was about like proprietary information or copyright laws and things, and it sounded kind of whiny. More than inspiring. Like, it was meant to inspire, but it was pretty much that like Congress is passing a law to try to extend copyright protection a long time, because why should people make money off of their inventions or whatever for a long time rather than just sharing
Indefinitely.
it? Yeah, and I mean, I get that stance, but at the same time, if I invented something awesome, like, it's up to me whether or not I want to make money on it forever or give it to the world. And it came, in my opinion, it came across just anti-corporation, and it just seemed kind of whiny to me. And I think that you can stoke the fires of creativity in a lot of different ways, and then just complaining about copyright law didn't really do that for me.
I think he's run into an inherent problem, and that he's done this for several years now, and I think a lot of what has needed to be said has already been said. And so he's trying to find other places to go, and I think that he's looking at that copyright issue as something that might stifle creativity. Because a lot of things have, can be copyrighted that probably shouldn't be at some point. Copyright law right now is about 100 years?
I think it's 100 years.
Yeah, it used to be 70-something. They got extended, I believe.
Yeah, so after 100 years, it's no longer the original creator that really has control anyways. It's usually a corporation that has now taken over and has monetized things in a way that the creator probably never wanted or intended to begin with. And I think that's kind of what it was getting at.
It's supposed to be public domain after that period, I believe. Like Popeye is.
Yeah, so I think that he's looking at, maybe for the greater good, especially being makers, in the idea of sharing, which I think was supposed to be the backbone of his speech. But like I said, I think that he said a lot of what has needed to be said already in the last couple of years. So I don't know what else there is for him to say.
Yeah, and I think my point to that was the sharing of ideas, and you're bringing everybody up, and the rising tide raises all ships, and that whole thing. Like, yeah, that's an admirable point, especially in that environment. But I think to put a pin in copyright law and how he specifically singled out Disney and Mickey Mouse. And I'm like, are all these people chomping at the bit to defame Mickey Mouse? Like,
that's a weird example, but that's almost like another topic for a completely, for a whole show. Talk about that specifically.
Definitely.
Did you guys catch? There was one thing I wanted to listen to, but it just kept going on, and there was other cool stuff happening. Did you catch who he was watching? Usually he announces like who he's been.
Oh yeah.
On the YouTube channel.
He's mentioned them like last year. The same people he's watching.
Who was it?
Matthias and Laura Kampf. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He's mentioned Matthias like several times in a row, and I forget the other one. But it's not anybody we haven't heard of.
Okay.
He literally said Matthias definitely last year, if not more than that.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple times. But I wanted to record that, but people were just asking a bunch of long-winded questions, and I got tired of them. Put my arms up in the air with that little camera.
Yup.
I tried, and then when I went to go put it all back together, I found out my phone only records at 23-minute intervals, and and then in between them, it cuts out like 5 seconds. So all that leaning on Wes to record that speech was for naught.
All right. So what was your question? What moment you were disappointed in, or something?
Yeah. Was there anything that you were disappointed in, or maybe didn't quite live up to your expectation?
I was expecting a crazier experience, as opposed to New York World Maker Faire.
This year was different, though. Yeah.
What do you mean? Like we were gonna go do LSD and TP somebody's house, or something?
No. Like more of the crazy art sculptures, more of the, there was only a small area where like Rapid Transit and the pirate ship and all that was. So like it really, I was expecting more of a significant difference from World Maker Faire than to Bay Area. And it didn't really seem like there was that huge of a difference.
Interesting.
Other than I know World Maker Faire will be colder.
Wes?
I was kind of disappointed there weren't. This is not a bust on Make, because apparently it was out of their control, but they didn't have the drone tent set up, which in years past they would have like this circus size, like long white tent that just had drone racing like course set up. They had like the nets, and it was like really dark. Had like LEDs along the sides, and it was like first person goggles with other screens up so you could see what their views were. Apparently the league pulled out in like a week before that or something, or less. So it's not their fault. It would just, I always enjoyed watching it and never get enough time to look in there. I didn't really have anything super problematic that I can think of. The organization was similar. I mean, it was kind of jumbled up compared to other years. They changed the locations of a lot of things, so I was sort of lost for a little while, but I guess they got a new organizer, and she took a different approach to things, which I think it worked out in the end. I mean, yeah, I don't really... I had so many positives that I had trouble focus. I have trouble even thinking of a negative, to be honest. I mean, the Airbnb, which is out of the purview of Maker Faire itself, but that whole experience was awesome. Spending with all the other 5 guys. We had a nice little collection of people. We had Mark and Robert, and we had David, which is another local maker here. We had Mark Schaefermeyer from Utah, Make Tinker Share. That's right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Make Tinker Share.
And we had Daniel from Switch and Lever, Switch and Lever, which I never met him before. I don't think any of us ever met him in person that I know of. I think actually that's not true. He was at the New York one a couple times. That's what he said. But super cool guy. Definitely happy got to meet him and put a face to the accent.
We brought some of the most interesting candies.
Yeah. But yeah, everything was good. I mean, the distance to the Maker Faire was good from the Airbnb. Okay, here we go. The only negative, and this is outside the purview of Maker Faire itself. I'm gonna call them out. Red Robin, you guys dropped the ball.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
It's probably one of the worst service I've ever had in a restaurant.
I set that guy up for success too.
You did. We were not like a rowdy bunch. We, didn't throw. Usually I'm in big crowds that I have. Sorry, my memory of having a large crowd at a restaurant goes back to the Navy days when those crowds were not very cordial. Like tipping tables over and roughhousing and stuff. I would say we were a well-behaved bunch, and I don't know.
That restaurant was empty.
It was terrible. It was empty. It was dead.
I forget who was saying it too, but whoever's really whoever was, I think it was Wes or Josh. I can't remember which one, but one of you were just sitting there like, "Why are you calling our names? You wrote our names down.
Yeah, so
it's on your paper."
I was the first person that guy started talking. He's like, "There's going to be separate checks," and there were probably, okay, I'll give a little bit of context. There were probably 30 people in our group, if
at
not,
least
probably a little more.
Yeah.
But again, that restaurant was dead. And I'm like, take people's names. That way you just call out a name and the food will go to them. You have the checks by people's names.
And he walked in order. Yeah, exactly.
Went down the line. And then they had all the different servers come out and just like randomly yelling out food. And some people had ordered the same stuff. And then that was after like an hour and a half the food finally came out.
It took like half an hour to get water.
People finally got drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've worked in food service. I don't know how many of you guys have, but it's all about being organized. And there was no reason that entire wait staff could not have made that much simpler. Because you guys went to a restaurant the following night.
I'm going to give them a shout out. Not that they listen, but it was a Mexican place called La Fonda Cocina Mexicana, which it was a family-run Mexican restaurant. David
She was the happiest waitress I've ever seen in my life.
David called and made a reservation, right, for initially like 8 of us, and then he called him again. He's like, it'll be like 8 of us or 6 of us at 7 o'clock. And then he's like, called him back. Yeah, I'm gonna bump it up to 12. Is that okay? Yeah, no problem. Hey, he calls back again a little bit later. Hey, I want to see if I can bump it up to around 16 people. Yeah, no problem. And then like half an hour later, he calls. This is several hours beforehand. He calls again. He's like, yeah, I want to try to bump up the reservation to like 35 people, and you can hear the person like choking in the background, like normally they were cool, this time they had a problem. No, and they said, yeah, no problem. And then we get there, everybody starts showing up like well before 7 o'clock. So basically the reservation was meaningless, except they had like an area of the restaurant sort of quarantined ready for us, but it was easily like half the volume that the restaurant could hold, probably maybe a third to a half. And we had like 3 or 4 waiters, and they were all super nice. Took our orders really fast. Got our drinks in a quick amount of time, considering the volume. And the food was good. They broke up the check into individual checks per table, and then even below that level, I mean, it was just, there was nothing I could say bad about them. And actually, if any people that are listening attended that dinner, if you guys could drop a review on whatever review site you like to use, I definitely think they deserve. I'm going to do it on Google reviews myself. The servers were awesome. I mean, they all had a smile on their face, and it was such a stark contrast to the night before. It's just they deserve to be shouted out.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna, for the one downside, I'm gonna call out our Airbnb.
Yeah. Oh.
How do you only have a 1/4 ounce of soap for 4 days? And how do you not have curtains when every single window is lit 24/7? Those are my only 2 beefs. More soap, more curtains. Otherwise, it was wonderful.
Well, we had got the text message that, like, I think 4 altogether about that night where you guys went to the Mexican restaurant. And one was from Wes, one was from, who else? John Farbolin?
Mm-hmm.
Evan and Caitlin, and I don't remember who else. But I was like, God, that sounds like a lot of people. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And it was Tiff and I was like, let's just go somewhere just you and I where it's quiet so we don't have the 30 people around like we did the night prior. I'm like, let's just go get some sushi somewhere because we're in California and they have fish because they're near water, not like Kentucky where we have fish and there's no water anywhere near. So then we ran into Bob and Jenny, and then they were like, oh, yeah, let's go eat sushi. I'm like, okay, there's 2 more. That's not bad. And so we're waiting on an Uber, and Zach Kaplan, the owner of Inventables, walks out with Dan, the owner of Glowforge. And we just start talking, and they're like, oh, we want to go get some sushi. And I'm like, yeah, that's where we're going. He's like, oh, sweet, we should all go along. So, like, our little date became a triple date, which wasn't bad, because Dan, I guess, had been to Japan many times and ordered in Japanese at this sushi restaurant. It was pretty baller. We had no idea what he was ordering, but he sounded legit and ordered some sake, and we all sat there and just like nodded intelligently, like, yes, I'll have the fancy word that he said, and he pretty much ordered for the table. But it was a good time. But yeah, it was our intimate little date became kind of a business dinner, which wasn't bad. They were really fun people, and they were talking about kids, and I guess Zach had been researching flat earthers for a while, so that was half of the conversation.
Nice.
Which was really funny. Because he was like, have you guys heard about these people?
That I would have loved to have been on that conversation. Oh my god.
It was pretty good. So we didn't have 30 people's worth of tacos. We had some sushi and some pretty good conversation with owners of some pretty baller companies, inadvertently. So it was pretty neat. So we going again next year?
It
ain't cheap.
If I can afford it, yeah.
Man, Uber's back and forth, which we split with Bob because we were going to the same place, but still. The food there, man, food was so expensive at that place.
I had on my way out, I tried to get breakfast at the airport. So the cheapest I could get was a $20 bacon, egg, and cheese with hash browns. And their hash browns are potatoes. And yeah, it was nuts. I've never been in a place where I had trouble finding food. Like, even where I live, there's a 7-Eleven somewhere. You can at least get a sandwich.
We ate at some delicious breakfast place called Apple Fritter. So if you go to Bay Area Maker Faire again next year, anytime, those listening, you go look up Apple Fritter and you will not be disappointed. This is Jimmy.
I do want to, if I do end up going there again, I do want to do non-maker. Like, I want to catch the sunrise because I'll be up anyway. I want to, Josh, some of the buildings you saw were incredible. They looked like old monastery type buildings in your video, or was that Bob?
Oh no, that was at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. That was gorgeous.
Yeah, so we got in Thursday and didn't really have anything to do on Friday. You guys were just on, like, San Francisco is a peninsula. You guys were on the right side, and we were on the left side. And we eventually kind of, we didn't really meet, but we were in the same area eventually. But, yeah, we started on the left side and just kind of hung out there. Someone told us over by the Palace of Fine Arts where we were is Industrial Light and Magic. Had no idea. Somebody saw my Instagram story and told me all about it. Yeah, Sean, you guys were over there too, and we didn't seem to cross paths.
We were an hour behind you.
So we just got to walk in the lobby of Industrial Light and Magic where there's R2-D2 and Darth Vader statue, and like that was crazy. And then we just walked across town to the piers where you guys were, and we just, I mean, no one really knew anything in particular. We just kind of, I picked a starting point. I'm like, let's go, because Jenny wanted to go to a park. She wanted to see greenery. I'm like, well, that looks green around there, and there's a fancy building that I saw that was in the rock. Let's go there. And then we just, someone else told me to go somewhere else, and then I asked where you guys were, and this is, well, let's walk over there. I think I ended up walking 12 or 13 miles that day.
It's a long way.
Just meandering about town. It was pretty nice.
I want to comment really quickly on, because I didn't say what I was kind of disappointed with or any of those things. I would like to see, or, you know, they had a little bit more last year and the year before, but I'd like to see a little bit more sponsorship. I know that Make is, you know, its own entity and company, but because of the spirit of what they represent, I think I'd love to see more corporations where other companies kind of contribute. In years past, I think Microsoft has had stuff there. I don't know why Tesla, SpaceX, you're in Silicon Valley. You're not that far away from some of those really big companies, and I would love to see a little bit more cooperation in the spirit of making and sharing and all those things. And I think that would make the event even better in some ways, but not to overshadow what individuals are doing either. I think there's a delicate balance between those two things. I think the individual still needs to kind of stand out and kind of be the star, but I think that having some of the other companies help pay for the party a little bit would be helpful and appreciated. Yeah, we're already using their products anyways.
I saw Lexus had a car that was there. I don't know what was so special about it or why they decided to bring a Lexus into the Expo Center at Maker Faire. But yeah, Tesla seems like it would be a pretty perfect fit.
Yeah. Mainly that.
I had buckets of fun, you guys.
Yep.
So where does this stack up on the get-togethers? The Woodworking in Americas, the woodworking shows, other maker fairs, and because those trips are expensive. So if you could recommend one of those shows to somebody, let's say that it's not near their house, they had to go travel to one of them, which one would you recommend?
Hands down, this one. No question. This one pushed all the other ones to the side of a cliff and, suplexed them off of it.
I would say this one. I think the biggest challenge is simply time. And personally, it's time. I need another full day that I could dedicate just to hanging out with you guys and other people. And because I only need really one day to see the fair, but I need a couple days to spend with people and making those connections. Those are the things that last even longer than going around different booths and looking at what I want to buy.
It seems kind of crazy, not judging, but just from a generic point of view, that you live the closest out of all of us, yet you spent the least amount of time there.
It's
for whatever reasons, I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just from a pure point of view.
Well, no matter where I've traveled, though, it's been that way. Boston was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, what about you?
I would say a Maker Faire, either this or New York, is definitely whichever one you're closest to get the cost down. Either one is more than worth going to. The only other real meetup I have to compare it to is Making It 100, and that was that's a little unique in what it is, or what it was. So, yeah, I would definitely say one of these two.
I would agree. Comparing it to the woodworking shows, because those are really popular. Sean, like you're talking about someone in California who gets to miss out on workbench cons and woodworking shows and that type of thing.
Yep.
I loved this because at a woodworking show, you can walk the floor to see all the exhibits, and 10 minutes you're done. It's a trade show, and there are some people doing demonstrations, but mostly it's people trying to hawk their products. And some of them aren't that great, and the rest of the time is hanging out with the same batch of people, going back to the hotel, and then hanging out with a rowdy, drunk batch of people.
Yes.
Whereas here, there was enough time in the 3+ days, I'll say 3 days, to hang out with everybody. So many people were there, not just people within our own little making community. Mark, you got a picture with Carrie Byron, man. You got to see celebrities. Conan O'Brien was there, walking around.
Yeah.
So to hang out with the people that you see and that you admire, and the people that are your internet kind of friends, and to go around and see all of the crazy, fantastic things, and inspiring things, and educational things, and things to buy, and there was never a moment where I was like, well, what do you want to do now? It was, we didn't see this thing. Oh, we got to go see that thing. Oh, you remember you told me we could go see this thing now.
Yep.
It was nonstop the whole time.
Embarrassment of riches, yeah.
so much fun, and it was definitely worth the investment.
The majority also, I would say, as far as like companies that have people there, granted it's not always the case, but it feels like the people that are at the booths for these respective companies at Maker Faire legitimately like want to be there or more knowledgeable about their product, and they're not trying to just like be a salesman compared to the woodworking show. In my experience, where it could be like a guy who's just working the weekend, or is like he travels to the shows, he doesn't actually have any affiliation with the company, and he's the ShamWow guy for product X. Essentially, that's what it feels like. It feels very salesman-y, and I hate that. Like it just. Ugh. But over at Maker Faire, I don't feel like I'm being hassled as I walk by a booth. I've had people at the woodworking shows act kind of like carnies in a way. Like they're like, "Hey man, come check this out," blah blah. And I hate that. To me, that's the equivalent of like knocking on my door or ringing my doorbell and soliciting my house, which is like one of my top pet peeves.
Hey, Space Kitty, come here. You need this. Come here, Space Kitty.
No.
But instead, here you can go see the director of sales and marketing for Matter Hackers, or the owner of Glowforge, or the guy who
Joseph
built
Prusa,
their first printer or Joe Prusa was hanging out. So rather than being heckled by some weekend salesman, you can go talk to the owner or designer or developer, like Wes went to go talk to the Labo guy. Like, you get to talk to the people that make this stuff and develop this stuff and take pride in this stuff, and they're just right there.
So I have a question for you guys. After going to Maker Faire, what are you most inspired to either look into more or to make right now as a result of being there?
Google's automation kits. They have a voice kit. They have what was
Vision.
it? Voice, vision, move, and motion.
Those other two aren't out
They were
yet.
selling there?
Yes.
The other two aren't out yet.
Yeah, there were only two, but there was me and the guy who was talking about it had the same idea at the same time. So I was kind of happy in myself that I came up with a good idea when someone smart came up with it too. So basically, they have these Google kits that are kind of the Google AI, but they're not constantly listening. You have to hit the button. So you hit the button on the Vision kit, and what the guy say, it could track up to 139 faces at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can tell it, let's. I don't want to say my idea because somebody else will make it. But you could tell it to look for something in a room, and it'll find it. It has like image recognition and face recognition, and the move kits. They were saying that it can point at my garage door, and it would find the garage door, point and move something towards it, or it would just all this. There's so many possibilities, and all four of them can be wired in together and work together. And it was really neat to hear him talk about it, and the potential for doing something really neat with it is just completely awesome.
Yeah, I ended up sitting beside on a couple occasions Alex from Raspberry Pi. She's like the sole social media representative for the Raspberry Pi Foundation, which is awesome.
Nice.
She was super nice. Yeah, so I'm more inspired to use Raspberry Pi in my projects versus Arduino. If Arduino had sat beside me, I might be thinking might sway the other direction. But she was aware of my projects. She seemed very engaged and actually interested in my stuff, not just like, oh, show me what you got. Okay, that's neat, and then move on to the next person. And actually had a good conversation with her several times. So I've got several ideas that I was already going to use the Raspberry Pi, but I'm thinking of other ways to use it in manners I hadn't considered. Because their Instagram has 100,000 followers, so I'm like, yeah, let's get some exposure through that. That'd be nice.
But their YouTube, that's what she was talking about. That they needed people to design new cases for their new Raspberry Pi that just came out. No, I wanted to get more into 3D modeling. going to see the snap ships or going to see a lot of the people that had made prototypes in 3D printers. And talking to Dan from Glowforge, like he had this dice tower that had like, finger joints, which are pretty common, but they serrated the inside of those finger joints so that you had to snap them together really hard. And he's like, and that thing held like glue. He's like, there's no glue in this, and it was solid. And just trying to build up, right? So I use a laser cutter right now, a lot of stuff that I like to make stuff for, like making plaques and things, and it's a lot of two-dimensional. And like the 3D prints that I get, I can design something really quick, which I've done at work. But I can usually scope through Thingiverse first. And now I'm like, I want to design stuff myself. Like, I want to build a big thing. Like, there's no reason that I can't. Like, I can build a big thing, and I can chop it up, and I can assemble it all together. And just seeing how I have access to the same technology and the same infrastructure and machines that a lot of these people there have, and I am underutilizing it all. Like, I am not doing what I should. I'm not being a proper steward of all the stuff that I have access to. And they made me want to step my game up pretty dramatically. John, what about you?
I'm probably more motivated than I have been in a long time to start the pinball project, but scaling it down with, something simple like getting some servos working off of a Arduino board. I was talking to Sony at Maker Faire, and they're entering into the Arduino board space. Although they're not Arduino, they're using their own proprietary boards that they've been using for years to power their own products, and now they're releasing them to the public. So they asked for my information, and I'm talking, and I actually might get a kit or something from them, so I'll mess with that too. But also more than ever, I'm really adamant at getting a 3D printer. I think I'm just going to maybe, just do it and beg for forgiveness later at some point here. Just trying to figure out which one to get. And I think I'm going to be on my way. I'm kind of tired of waiting. I want to start building my knowledge base with it and understanding how it works. That way, when I really have the use for it, I'm ready to go. I don't need to spend that time then trying to figure out how it works.
Well, the Monoprice guy said that he would be sending, I guess, Bob and I some of their printers. Because I told him how, like, I've used it, but he hasn't. People keep asking us for less expensive recommendations for printers because all the big name people send them and they're super expensive. So he rattled off, I think, 3 different machines that he wanted to send us to test out to hopefully, recommend to people. So the Monoprice Mini, the version 2 that's out right now, like, it's less than stellar. But they had an updated version that fixed all of the shortcomings that the version 2 had and looked pretty nice. But again, I haven't tried it. So
when you get that model number, and if it works out, let me know. I'm going to look into that one then.
Yep.
So we're going to... Mark, go ahead.
The downfalls of not sitting next to each other.
Yes.
I think we covered what are we geeking out about.
Yeah, I think we kind of integrated that into the majority of the show. So, and anything lingering...
You guys know that there's a Star Wars movie coming out tomorrow, right?
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly.
I heard.
Yep. We'll have to schedule our time so we can get our resident guest in here again.
Yeah.
I think I'm supposed to go see it tomorrow.
You sound excited.
Yeah.
That's how I
It's
feel.
like going to the gym. Like, yeah, I need to. I'm pretty sure it won't be as bad after I leave. But like,
It's another Star Wars movie. I guess
I might be better after. But I gotta
We're
let
such
Pete walk
spoiled
in.
geeks.
I know, right? Apparently, it's gotten good reviews. I haven't read those reviews. All I've heard is that apparently it's gotten good reviews.
I'm going into it looking at it as a buddy comedy between Han and Chewie. As long as there's some quips and some funny bits, I'll be happy.
As long as it's better than Thundercats Roar.
Oh, don't! No!
Yeah, we're going to have to table that right now, otherwise we'll be talking for another hour.
Stop it!
So any lingering comments about Maker Faire we'll hold to the next episode, or just
That sounds
handle them
good.
as they come.
If you guys are watching at home, the video of what just happened is amazing. Everybody just like lost their mind.
We gotta
go to bed angry now.
We as adults need to do something about Cartoon Network. They're ruining everything that's sacred about animation.
Well, you haven't seen it yet, but the theme song, that was bad.
On that note,
Yes.
See, you had to go make Happy Land a bad place. You had to ruin it.
I've tried starting this 3 times.
yes, you have.
I'll shut up now.
If you'd like to find out more about the show, go ahead and visit makinggeeks.com. Check out the contact page. You can drop us some questions, suggestions for the show, anything that you like, and spend some time on the homepage. And you can listen to our past shows right there, and take a look at all of our past guests right there on makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us across all the social medias on Facebook and Twitter at Making Geeks, and on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast.
And we'd like to thank our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for providing the resources for us to adventure across the country and high-five each other in person. Thank you guys so much for that. We passed out many stickers that were also a result of your support. And we'd like to thank our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams, for his support. And if you want to help keep our show rolling right along, head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks.
Apparently, Seth tried to message my wife on Facebook and tell her to heckle us while we were on stage.
Oh.
That guy.
It did not work. But
#1 donor status denied.
what's my part? I forget. Oh yeah, but you can find us all individually all over the internet. You can find Wes at geeksmithing.com. I'm Sean at geekbuilders.net. Mark is at asylum-3d.com. And my work is at thepiworkshop.com. And if you want to see a wrap-up, a visual wrap-up, I just posted a video on I Like to Make Stuff Too. It's the second channel. So I put that together. You can kind of get a visual idea of all the stuff that we've been talking about today. Go check that out. It's called Maker Faire 2018. Not just a clever name. But everybody, we'd like to thank you for hanging out with us through... Okay, I'm going to get a little sappy real quick, because now I know people are listening. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to do this with you guys 101 times.
Right?
We didn't get to really talk about it. We were pushing our time on stage, but this is truly an honor to do this show with you guys, and I appreciate the time that we get to spend together and the friendship that we've had over these 100 bajillion episodes. So thank you guys, and thank you to everybody who listens, everybody who supports the show, either gives their time, patrons that give their money. That's amazing. But it's so funny to think, that shot that we shown at Maker Faire of Mark breathing all gross into the microphone, like that
2 years ago.
Able to do this and to reach people 101 times, like that's bonkers. And thank you guys.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
And on that note, guys, we hope you go back and watch all previous 100 episodes. Binge watch them.
/listen.
Or listen.
Yeah, binge listen. Watch
We've got more hours than the Marvel Universe, so let's go, people.
But in the meantime, if you have better things to do, we hope you have a fantastic week.
See y'all.
Night, everybody.
Take care. Yeah, we were unfortunately rushed. Really, a lot there at the end of the show. We didn't even really get to do that self-promotion to the audience.
No, that would have been good. I went back and I forgot how much that old guy who was talking out of the side of his mouth was yammering on.
Oh yeah, I said something like 3 times. I thought he was gonna hijack the whole audience. All right.
I can program Arduinos.
For as much background noise there was on the audio, it came out okay.
Yeah, I wondered if I was blowing out people's ears whenever I got excited, because every time I would start talking up, like it would peak.
I knocked it down as much as I could, and I'm hoping that based on that, people would adjust their volume. I listened to it in my car twice,
It wasn't bad. I listened to it.
I thought it was fine. Yeah.
I'm going to say bye to all of our audience / Mr. Donovan. Night, buddy. Thanks for hanging out, man. We wish you could have joined us next time.